Attila the Hun was a Hunnic warrior, and basically, he was one of the many members of Hunnic society that spanned throughout Central Asia, Eastern Europe, and the Caucasus. Um, let's start with the origins of the Huns. A lot of historians think that the Huns originated in Kazakhstan, which there's a lot of evidence to support, but me personally and several historians believe that they were the documented Zhang-Yu, is that how you pronounce it? Who was a loose confederation that terrorized northern China as early as the 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century BCE. There's also a lot of evidence to support this. Certainly not more than the Kazakhstani theory, but a decent amount. And that's personally what the theory I subscribe to. But anyway, there was widespread Hunnic culture. For example, in Bactria, the Hephthalites reigned supreme. And so they were very powerful. Like, very powerful. They took out the Gandhara civilization, and they were enemies with the Sassanid Persians. They had several wars with the Persians, and frankly, were superior militarily wise. And they conquered the north of the Gupta Empire and pushed the Guptas south. And they were actually the reason the Guptas collapsed. So they're called by like 20-ish names in Sanskrit. Hephthalites and Ephthalites are the two Greek names, and then there's also a few Iranian Persian names that they're called by. And so they collapsed pretty much right after they got pushed out of India. I mean, they still ruled in Bactria for centuries to come, but they were never quite as powerful as when they were in the 5th century, 4th century CE, which was them at their peak. So they were very powerful, but as I mentioned before, Attila the Hun in the Hungarian plain, that was a whole subdivision of Huns, right? And so, basically, they existed in the end of the time of the Western Roman Empire. They were also extremely powerful, and they were a bunch of Hunnic tribes among the Germanic tribes of the Alans, the Visigoths, the Gothic peoples, and so they were classified as one of the barbarian peoples. That, of course, that's how the Romans referred to them, but they were actually pretty advanced. There's records of them putting binders on their children's heads to deform them to make them look more scarier, which was a fear tactic. That's kind of insane, in my opinion. I know a lot of other cultures did deformed people for, religious rites and ceremonies, but they did it for the sole purpose of looking scarier. A lot of Christian Eastern Roman references say that they're the devils, literal devils, angels. And basically, they were sent by the devil to wipe out the Byzantine / Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. And so, one time they launched a campaign on Constantinople. They cleared the Balkans just extremely swiftly. They destroyed every village in their path. But get this, they didn't conquer Constantinople. So, yeah. So, they got sent back. Once again, they thundered across the Balkans. But, again, they didn't conquer it. And so, Attila the Hun's brother, well, after this point, or maybe before, I don't know, Bleda, Bleda, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. He was murdered, most likely by Attila himself. And, so that's not good. And then also, Attila had conquered the Alans and the Visigoths forcing them into Roman lands. This upset the Roman social structure and, balance of their civilization. And so northern Rome kind of erupted in a free-for-all because of the amount of people that migrated. This was called the Great Migration, and there was not enough sustainable land for all the new peoples. So, plus the severity of the Romans' reign, that didn't help. The Visigoths revolted, did damage all over the Western Roman Empire, and weakened them for the Huns. Of course, the Visigoths were also brutally, brutally damaged by the Romans, and the Huns partially, who were trying to sweep in and take some Roman territory before they tried to invade and take Rome itself. But anyway, after this point, the Huns wanted to conquer the Italian peninsula, so they thundered on in, conquered a few villages, one for Rome itself, actually, according to some sources, but failed. So they figured that they would go for Gaul, which is now France and South Germany. So but before the battle, because Attila the Hun was shamanistic, he rattled some knuckle bones, which is like the dice of the time, and it came out that he was going to lose the battle. And so the Huns, not Attila the Hun, arrived at southeastern France, to battle with the Romans, because Attila the Hun himself reportedly gurgled on his own blood, choked, and died in a drunken state. Not the best way to go out, to be honest. And so his men got demolished, thousands of them killed, and in his will, I guess it would be, he named his sons and nephews his successors. There were several of them. He thought that they would rule jointly, and slowly, by process of elimination, the Huns would get to one ruler. But no, the empire completely fractured, and it was horrible. And the Huns assimilated into the surrounding Celtic cultures, and even the Byzantine culture. Little weird, because they were once their enemies. That's pretty